Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 1 Minute Breakdowns. UFC 287, Pereira Adesanya. UFC Pereira Adesanya 2, or if you want to talk about all time, Pereira Adesanya 4. And I'm really excited for this matchup. I'm sure you guys are excited for this whole card. Another great pay per view going back to Miami for the first time in 10 years. So there's going to be a wild crowd. You can expect that. But first and foremost, I know we did take a week off. If you guys haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. I'd really appreciate the support. And we're on the way to 300 followers and subscribers on YouTube. Without further ado, let's go ahead and step right into this first fight. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions while I'm doing this stream, leave them in the chat. I'll be answering them after each fight as I see them. But first fight of the night, we have Jacqueline Amarim making her UFC debut against Sam Hughes. And this one's going to be short and concise. Amarim, I think she's a phenom grappler, has not been out of round one, finishing all of her wins by whether it's TKO or sub. If Sam Hughes can survive the early onslaught of Amarim with the guard pulls, or if she can defend the takedowns, this could get interesting late. But I do think Amarim can get the finish early here. I'm interested in the ITD line. Have not pulled the trigger yet. Uh, I wouldn't say Amarim is a parlay piece at this price, though, just because of she's making her debut, and I don't like to make these debut parlay pieces, especially at this price. Given that we haven't seen her out of this first round, I don't think it's warranted. But I do think she gets the win. I do think she subs Sam Hughes here. But yeah, like I said, short and concise with this one. And then let's go to the next fight. Shout out to my guy, MMA Locker Room, in the chat. I appreciate the support, my man, Rudy Gobert. I don't know if I see that, but you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. But next fight, we have Steve Garcia, the Machine, going up against Wolverine Shailan Nurdembeke. Shailan Nurdembeke is the favorite here, closer on minus 225 to 250 in this spot. The comeback on Steve Garcia is around plus 160. And then in this fight, Steve Garcia is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage and 4-inch height advantage as well. So he will be the bigger guy. Garcia, this is one thing I'll say, he's a wild man, will swing heavy leather. But here's the thing, he gets knocked down. He got knocked down 8 times and has knocked down 3 people, or knocked down 3 times in his pro career. Shailan can be a pressure-heavy grappler and wrestler, as we've seen in his past couple of fights, but TJ Brown and in a couple of other opponents. But then when you see him fall in love with his striking, I think this might play out primarily on the feet in the beginning. And this might play into Steve Garcia's game plan. I do think Shailan is the rightful favorite here. I think he can touch the chin of Steve Garcia and get him down, but I wouldn't say he's a parlay piece here either. I did take the under 2.5 rounds at minus 135 myself. I do think this is a violence spot where both guys are going to be swinging until one person drops, and I think the person that's going to drop is Steve Garcia. We've seen it happen way too many times. And Shailan, I'm not going to say he's the greatest finisher, but he can finish. He has that power in his hands, and the striking is much improved. So give me Shailan in this fight, but no bet other than the under 1.5 here. Let's go to this next one. Shout out to my guy, Alec Turner. Thank you, my man. I appreciate the support. It means a lot. Next up, we have Trey Ogden going up against Ignacio Bahamundes here. Bahamundes is going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 3.5-inch reach advantage here. Ogden is going to be on short notice. We all know that. He was supposed to fight a couple weeks ago, but his opponent pulled out due to medical issues. Bahamundes, in my opinion, is miles ahead here in the striking. I'm curious to see how his takedown defense holds up here, but he has proven to have some decent takedown defense. Ogden does not have the best wrestling either. If this stays on the feet, I think Bahamundes just lights him up and wins either a clear 30-27 decision or like an attritional KO, TKO in the later rounds. I think, yeah, he's huge for the division. That's without needing to say. I think Bahamundes is a viable parlay piece here. He's probably one of my most confident picks in this card to get the win. I just think the only way Ogden can win this fight would probably be by sub. And I know this might sound crazy after he pulled off the win against Zellhuber, but Zellhuber is very trigger shy in that fight. And he just did not throw anything at all. It was disappointing to most because I know a lot of people had Zellhuber parlayed up, but Bahamondes is not a Zellhuber. I'll tell you that. Next up, we have Lupita Godinez going up against Cynthia Calvillo. Lupita Godinez coming in again on a big favorite number here, close to minus 300 now. She's going to be 2 inches shorter and have a 3-inch reach disadvantage in this fight. Cynthia Calvillo, the biggest issue I see here is she's moving down a weight class after, in the past, struggling to make weight. This is a big question mark. Calvillo has shown that she's on the way out, 4 straight losses, but I mean, I guess it's good competition, so you can't really blame her. Has not had the best coaching at Team Alpha Male. I'll have to say that. We've seen a lot of WMMA talent go there and not really thrive under the coaching there. Godinez, in my opinion, pulled a stunt last time against Angela Hill, only shooting 3 takedowns, not finding success. And I just think she rights the ship here, goes back to the grappling, even though that's where Calvillo shines and does her best work. It's just tough to lay chalk after seeing her slip up against Angela Hill last time out. And in general, just tough to lay chalk on WMMA like this. The last time I think I laid chalk on WMMA might have been, it had to be Loma Lukbunmi, and she did us well after giving us a scare in the first round. We remember how that went against Elise Reed. So I'm going for Lupi Godinez and for my pick to win this fight, but nowhere near close to putting money on there. Next up, we have another short notice fight. We have Carl Williams going up against the Vanilla Gorilla Chase Sherman. Carl Williams is going to be an inch shorter. He's going to have an inch of reach, so it's nothing to shout about. And here's my take on this fight. It's going to be very short and simple. I think it's Williams all day. Sherman is just so bad. I don't think he'll find success in the striking. I think he's a better striker than Carl Williams, but we've seen how Chase Sherman's takedown defense is absolutely horrendous. And I think Williams is going to be able to land as many takedowns as he wants, get the control he wants, although his jiu-jitsu is lacking big time. Just Chase Sherman is horrible on the ground. And I think after a round or two, Chase Sherman just might tap just due to the pressure. So yeah, give me Carl Williams. Obviously, this is not a surprising take. He's a minus 500 favorite for a reason. And this is on short notice. I mean, guys, how many times have you seen a short notice fighter, like I believe it's a week short notice or 8 days, at a minus 500 favorite, and it's only his second UFC fight? That should tell you a lot. So, yeah, I think Carl Williams takes this fight any which way he wants it. Maybe he gets a finish here, but Carl Williams can't even finish his breakfast, man. Okay, next fight. Shout out to my boy, Evan. Thank you for the support. And Mark, thank you guys for all being here. I really appreciate it. And if you have any comments or questions throughout the card, feel free to leave them below, and I'll get to them all. But next up, we have a very exciting fight here. This is one of my favorites on the card. We have Joe Pyfer versus Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald is another type of phenom grappler, as I was mentioning about Jacqueline Amarim earlier, but has been KO'd a couple of times in his career. I was surprised, honestly, that he didn't get KO'd by Bruno Silva or Mahmoud Muradov, but Muradov gassed out, and Silva just looked like he was not fully there for that fight. Pyfer trains with the Gracie Philly boys and has a lot of power in the hands, as we all know. In my opinion, I think this is a stylistic nightmare for Gerald. It's going to be hard to count him out, though, just because if he lands a takedown or somehow lands on top or even on the bottom, for all I care. I mean, this guy has 27 wins by sub, and I think he can pull it out in any which way possible. There's like 6-7 different submissions that he can land on from the bottom alone. So, I mean, if he gets it to the ground, it could get sweaty, but I do think Pyfer finds the button, finds the chin, and wins via KO here. So give me Joe Pyfer in this matchup. Not the most confident pick, but I do think he's viable here. We got a couple questions. What's up, Dar? Thank you for showing up. Appreciate you. Sorry, I've been MMIA for the last few days. Been dealing with life. Hey, man, we all have life to deal with at that point, so don't even worry about it, Evan. We got you. And Mark, no matter how you bet this fight, Gerald by sub or sub 2-3 is a must bet. Even if it's just ahead. Yeah, I do completely agree with this. I can't shy you off of that bet because that's something that I might take myself. So great look there. Great shout by Mark with the Gerald sub or Gerald sub 2-3. Next up, we have Michelle Waterson Gomez going up against Luana Pinheiro. This fight is one where I say, I mean, you can go out and cook up some food, make yourself a drink, take a smoke break. Pinheiro has power on the feet, very good grappler. Waterson's been a staple in the division, though. But she's old. Pinheiro has had some cardio issues, like her pacing is just horrible. She tends to throw 100% into every strike, and that just does not spell well for UFC talent because that's just how you gas yourself out. Waterson has a better strength of schedule. I think Waterson can patiently dart in and out and wear out Pinheiro and get her to gas out in this matchup. I think money line side, it is Waterson. But you much rather just play her by decision, get an extra 20 to 30 cents, just depending on where you're looking. So yeah, I would definitely go Waterson in this matchup, but I am not putting any money on this fight. I think this fight probably goes to split decision as well. All right. Next fight, we have Kelvin Gastelum going against Chris Curtis. Another fight where I think it probably could go to split. We haven't seen Kelvin Gastelum in quite some time. Lost 4 out of last 5, but against some really good competition. I think Gastelum is likely going to throw more volume here. And believe it or not, Kelvin Gastelum is the younger guy. Kelvin Gastelum is 31 and Chris Curtis is 35, which might shock most people. Yeah, so I think Kelvin's probably going to throw more volume, younger guy. He can mix in the wrestling, but I don't think he's going to find success because we've seen how elite Chris Curtis's takedown defense is. Gastelum's only lost to the cream of the crop. Just say how it is. Curtis has the power edge here, power advantage. I don't think that there's a finish in this fight. I think it goes all 3 rounds into a decision, into a split, as I mentioned earlier. I think Gastelum wins this fight, but I think this is one where I want to enjoy it as a fan more than anything because this is going to be very, very dicey. And given the way the judges have been scoring fights lately, I do not want to put any money on either fighter here. I think the over 2.5 is a definite parlay piece. Or if you want to parlay up the minus, sorry, not the minus, the fight goes to decision. I think that's a very solid parlay piece in this card. So I would definitely do that myself. Let's check out the chat. Oh yeah, Mark is on the same exact thought train as me with the last 2 fights. Split and split. Yep, I can't agree more, Mark. I just think both of those fights are super close. WMMA fights are usually, I mean, when it's middle tier fighters, it usually does tend to fight close. And then with Chris Curtis and Gastelum, I think a guy in Gastelum who hasn't fought in quite some time might find some rust early. Chris Curtis might steal round 1. Gastelum comes back in 2, and then round 3 is just a very dicey, like, who has the will to go out there and get it done. And it might be very, very close. And both fighters, decent gas tank. Both fighters have chins made of bricks. So I'm very excited for that one, if you couldn't tell. But next up, we have the Phenom, Raul Rosas Jr. going up against Christian Rodriguez. And guys, let me remind you who Christian Rodriguez is. Christian Rodriguez is someone who was a minus 300 to 400 favorite in his last fight against Weems, a guy who we've been touting to be the next up in this division and a next great prospect. So don't forget about this guy. Rodriguez is a really good fighter, really well-rounded, very good striking. I think he's the better striker in this matchup for sure. In the grappling edge, solid guillotine and front choke series from Rodriguez, from what I've seen on tape. He's only 25, but it's shocking to see how young Rosas is at 18. Like, we just haven't seen someone like this young in the UFC. But yeah, Rodriguez has sharp boxing, throws in multiples and combos. This guy is he's a problem. And Rosas, yeah, as I said, phenom grappler, serviceable striking, but we haven't seen much of it yet. I think Rodriguez, I mean, if he had a couple more minutes, or I mean, even a minute more, he could have finished Pierce in that fight. He showed that he kept up with Pierce, and oh man, that fight was ridiculously sweaty because I had Pierce parlayed up. And if you guys remember it, first round, Pierce is in this nasty guillotine, as he always throws his head straight in when he's going for a takedown. And Rodriguez is just squeezing on the neck, and he wants to finish this fight by any means possible. But it was so close. I'm just glad I won the money there. But I think he can pull it off here again because Rosas tends to do the same. In his first fight, he did end up in that guillotine for quite some time, found his way out of it. This is also going to be a very fun fight. Tricky sub game for Rodriguez, but ultimately I think Rosas does end up subbing him because he's just a little bit better on the ground, and that's I think where this fight plays out. So give me Rosas in another very fun fight. Probably no money on it either. We'll go next. Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. And I think we all have a similar breakdown on this one. Ponzinibbio is just a little bit too old, a little bit too injured. I just to fight a guy like Kevin Holland, who is going to have an 8-inch reach advantage against him. He's going to be a better striker as well, better ground game, and yeah, he's just way past his prime. I think Holland can get him out of there. We saw how Morono tagged Ponzi in his last fight, and that's not promising. Morono, I'm not going to say he has very good striking, but it's decent, but nowhere near the level of Holland. If this fight does play out and it does actually happen on Saturday, because there was that video of Holland saying that the opponent changed or something. If this does happen, I think Holland wins this inside the distance, probably a second round attritional TKO. So I'll be betting Holland inside the distance. Next up, we're running through these fights. We have Rob Font against Adrian Yanez. And I have a very interesting breakdown for this one because I just feel like it's a mirror matchup. Just the older generation versus the younger. And yeah, obviously Adrian Yanez is 6 years younger here. Height and reach are very similar. Yanez just has an advantage. Actually, no, it's Rob who has the advantage of an inch in height and an inch in reach. Here's the thing: if Rob Font can get that jab pumping, if he can control the boxing distance and not let Yanez crash him inside the pocket, I think Rob Font can cruise to a decision. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Yanez is going to make it tough. I think this is going to be a very close fight that goes to decision. And when it's a very close fight that goes to decision, I would rather have the plus money dog, especially around plus 150. When I got it, I got Rob Font in this fight. I just think he's going to give him a vet lesson. If you look at the combined records of these guys, Yanez has fought guys that have a total record a combined of 11 and 15, while Rob Font is somewhere, I believe it's like 70 and 52, something around there. But you just see what I mean. It's much more experienced competition when it comes to Rob Font. Similar to the matchup when I was talking about Chris Curtis and Gastelum. Gastelum has faced the much more competitive and much more proven competition. That's what I mean to say. So I think Rob Font here should be able to outbox Adrian Yanez and win a decision. Next up, we have the co-main event. We have Gilbert Burns going up against Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns is going to be giving up 3 inches in reach and an inch in height. And then if you look at the ages of these guys, pretty close, but Gilbert Burns is the younger fighter by 2 years. And here's the thing. It's like if this was a striker versus striker, I would be backing Masvidal at this big plus money tag. I'm not saying he has no chance here, but you kind of get the drift. I think if Gilbert Burns gets him down in the first round, I think it might be over there. I think Gilbert wins by sub here pretty handedly, whether it's round 1 or round 2. I don't think he's going to be too dumb and just try to strike with Masvidal for too long, because we've seen Gilbert Burns drop the jabs. We've seen a jab drop him, but that was at 155. But we saw the knockout with Kamaru. He does have power in the hands. I'm not going to say that his striking is bad at all. But when you're going up against someone who does not have the best ground game at all, I think you just want to attack that sub immediately, like how he did against Magny in the last fight. I just think Jorge is a little bit too old now. His durability is not there. And I don't think he really deserves a title shot even if he wins this fight. I think the fighter that the UFC wants to promote here is Gilbert Burns, and I think Gilbert Burns is going to get it done inside the distance. So give me that. Give me Gilbert Burns by sub. Last but not least, we have the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't already, please leave a like and comment on the video. Really appreciate it. Keep this going. We have Alex Poatan Pereira going up against Israel Adesanya. They're both 6'4". They both have 80-inch reach. And this is the second fight in the UFC where they have faced each other. A total of 3 fights where they have already completed. This is the fourth, combined kickboxing and mixed martial arts. So here's my take on this fight. Last time out, when I bet on Pereira, they were giving me I got an average line of plus 170 because my tracked entry is 150 and I had some pre-fight at plus 180. I felt like there was a lot of meat on the bone there. And I thought this was a 50-50 matchup. Now here at plus 120, plus 130 for Pereira, there isn't really much meat on the bone for me to take advantage of this matchup. Now, I'm going to break this fight down a little bit different. In this time around, if you look at the embedded episodes, and I know I don't try to go too deep into this, but you see in almost a couple, like 2 or 3 of these embedded episodes, Adesanya is training with multiple wrestling coaches, and then you see the media interviews that he had yesterday, where he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put him on his back. Oh no, we'll see what happens." Like I think he's gonna be going for the wrestling here. And what was the issue in the last fight for Pereira? That third round, if you remember, Adesanya, who's not known for his takedowns and not known for control time, was able to take him down and control him there for 3+ minutes in the third round, and he won the round. And then look in the fourth, Pereira was gassed out for the first couple minutes before he caught his second win. I think Adesanya does this from round one this time out, given the hints that we've seen on social media, given the hints that we've seen over the embedded episodes. I think he wrestles the first couple of rounds and then catches Pereira when he's gassed out. Now, the one thing that worries me is Adesanya is talking about him being very aggressive and taking what's his this time around, which, yeah, I think that's good. You saw how he rocked him after that first. But, but in doing that, you're immediately putting yourself into the game plan of Alex Pereira with that counter check left hook that has put down tens of fighters. So it's going to be very tricky. I think the best way to target this fight is going to be the fight does not go to decision. I think either fighter here is going to finish, whether it's a Pereira knockout or an Izzy knockout or sub. I will be betting Izzy sub. And yeah, I don't think I'd be comfortable betting on either fighter here. It's just going to be a little too risky. There's not meat on the bone with Pereira, as I mentioned, and I think this fight just ends. So I would much rather just lay the fight doesn't go to decision. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this fight. It's going to be a banger, and I think if Pereira wins, he probably fights Khamzat Chimaev or goes up to 205 and fights either the winner of Jamal Hill and Yuri Prochazka, or just fights Jamal Hill if Yuri's not ready yet. It's going to be a very interesting one. I think if he loses, he still goes up to 205. This could be his last fight or 2 fights at middleweight for Pereira, because you hear him talking about how he could make heavyweight. So what? I don't know. I think he's killing himself making middleweight here, but I think he wants to do it specifically for Adesanya. Interesting fights we have on slate for this Saturday. I am very excited. Let me check the comments, see if I missed anything. Under maybe for Burns Masvidal. Yeah, I mean the under for sure. I would much rather just play the Burns inside the distance, because you're giving yourself a couple more rounds, like a round and a half, for him to get the finish. Because what if he gets the sub late in round 2? That's definitely a possibility. What if Masvidal comes out and he styles on him for a couple of minutes in that first, and he doesn't get what he needs until like the later part of the round. So that's just my take on it. But yeah, guys, thank you for showing up and showing support. Much appreciated. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment on the video, and then share it with your friends and family on Twitter, YouTube, whichever you want. Facebook, Instagram helps out a lot. We're almost at 300 subscribers and looking to make some more entertaining content and make you guys some more money. But until next time, guys, I will see you next week.